The notification sound cut through the garage like a rusty blade. I was elbow deep in a '98 Camaro's engine, grease coating my forearms, when my phone buzzed against the workbench. Should have ignored it. Should have kept my hands where they belonged, fixing things that could actually be fixed. But I didn't. The Instagram post loaded slowly on my cracked screen, pixel by pixel, like watching a car accident in slow motion. There she was, Elena, my fiancée of 3 years, wearing that black dress I'd never seen before, the one that probably cost more than I made in a week. She was perched on someone's lap, champagne flute raised toward the camera, lips curved in that practiced smile she reserved for social media. The lap belonged to Jason Chen, my best man. The caption read, "Upgraded, new, chapter, blessed life." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name was tagged in the comments. 17 people had already liked it. Bastard, I muttered, wiping my hands on the shop rag. The words echoed in the empty garage, bouncing off concrete walls that suddenly felt like they were closing in. I stared at the screen until the image burned into my retinas. Elena's manicured fingers, the same ones that had traced promises across my chest just last week, were now tangled in Jason's perfectly styled hair. His smirk was the same one he'd worn when he'd offered to help plan our bachelor party, when he'd insisted on being the one to organize the rehearsal dinner, when he'd volunteered to keep Elena company while I worked late shifts to pay for the wedding that was supposed to happen in 3 weeks. My thumb hovered over the screenshot button. 10 years of my life condensed into a single image, broadcast to everyone we knew. Elena's PR training showed. She'd tagged both our families, the entire wedding party, even my co-workers from the garage. Maximum visibility for maximum impact. I took the screenshot. Then I opened our family group chat, the one Elena had created to keep everyone in the loop about wedding planning. 32 people, including both sets of parents, grandparents, bridesmaids, groomsmen, and assorted relatives who'd been counting down the days until they could witness our perfect love story. I pasted the screenshot without comment and hit send. The responses started immediately. My phone buzzed like an angry wasp trapped in a jar. Text after text, call after call, each notification another nail in the coffin of the life I'd thought I was building. Mom. Tommy, what is this? Elena's dad. Call me now. My brother Mike. Dude, what the hell? Elena's sister. Mia. OMG, is this real? I turned the phone face down and walked to the mini fridge in the corner, pulling out a beer that had been waiting for this moment longer than I'd realized. The bottle opener was cold in my palm, solid and real in a way that nothing else felt right now. The garage door rattled as someone pounded on it from outside. Through the grimy windows, I could see Elena's white BMW, the one I'd spent 6 months restoring after she'd wrapped it around a mailbox during one of her girls' nights out. Tommy! Her voice was muffled but unmistakably panicked. Open up! We need to talk! I took a long pull of beer and considered my options. I could pretend I wasn't here, wait for her to leave, and deal with this mess tomorrow. I could open the door and listen to whatever explanation she'd crafted during the drive over. Or I could do what every rational part of my brain was screaming at me to do. Walk out the back door and never look back. Instead, I hit the button that raised the garage door. Elena stood there in the same black dress from the photo, but now her makeup was smeared, and her hair looked like she'd been running her hands through it. Jason's car idled behind her BMW, him visible through the windshield, but making no move to get out. It's not what it looks like, she said before I could speak. I laughed, actually laughed, and the sound surprised us both. Really? Because it looks like my fiancée posted a picture of herself sitting on my best man's lap, telling the world she's upgraded. What am I missing? You're taking it out of context. She stepped into the garage, her heels clicking against the concrete. It was just a joke. We were at happy hour with the wedding party, and the wedding party I wasn't invited to? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. You were working. You're always working. We didn't want to bother you. Right. I set the beer down on the workbench and picked up my phone. So this is bothering me, and this. I scrolled through the comments that had appeared in the last 10 minutes. And definitely this. The comments section had exploded. Elena's sorority sisters were posting fire emojis and "Get it, girl" messages. My co-workers were asking if I was okay. Elena's mother had commented 3 times, each message more frantic than the last. "Delete the post," I said. "I can't just—" "Delete it, Elena, now." She pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. "Done. Happy?" "Not even close." I opened our family group chat and showed her the screen. 47 messages and counting. Your dad wants to know if he should cancel the venue. My mom is asking if she should return her dress. My grandmother, my 80-year-old grandmother, just learned what upgraded means from your Instagram post. Elena's face went pale under her foundation. "We can fix this. We'll tell everyone it was a misunderstanding, that someone else posted it, that what? That your phone was hacked by someone who wanted to destroy our relationship for kicks?" I shook my head. "The metadata shows it was posted from your account, from your location, at the exact time you were sitting on Jason's lap." "How do you know about metadata?" "Because unlike everyone else in your life, I actually pay attention to details. It's what keeps engines running and relationships honest." I finished my beer and tossed the bottle into the recycling bin. "Speaking of honest, how long has this been going on?" "Nothing's going on." "Elena." My voice was quiet now, the kind of calm that comes right before a storm breaks. "I've known you for 10 years. I know when you're lying. You get this little wrinkle between your eyebrows, and you start touching your necklace. You're doing both right now." Her hand dropped from the gold chain at her throat like it was on fire. "So I'll ask again. How long?" She looked toward the garage door, where Jason was still sitting in his car like a coward. "It's complicated." "Complicated how? Complicated like you've been sleeping with him, or complicated like you've just been emotionally cheating for months while I worked overtime to pay for a wedding that was apparently just a formality? Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic?" I pulled up the screenshot again. "You posted a picture of yourself with another man, told the world you upgraded, and tagged me so I wouldn't miss it. If anyone's being dramatic, it's you." Elena's composure finally cracked. "You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, Jason and I have been seeing each other. Yes, it's been going on for months. And yes, I was going to tell you, but not like this." "When? After the honeymoon?" "I don't know. I was confused, okay? You're never around anymore, and Jason pays attention to me. He listens when I talk about work. He takes me to nice places. He makes me feel special. I work 60 hours a week to pay for your lifestyle, Elena. The condo, the car, the wedding. Where did you think that money was coming from?" "That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" She straightened her shoulders, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with in college, confident, determined, unafraid to fight for what she wanted. "The point is that I deserve better than this." She gestured around the garage at the tools and oil stains and honest work that had built everything we had together. "I deserve someone who can give me the life I want, not just the life you can afford." The words hit like a physical blow. I'd heard them before, whispered during late-night fights when she thought I was too tired to remember, implied in conversations about other couples' vacations and houses and careers. But hearing them said out loud, with conviction and no apology, was different. "So, Jason's your upgrade." "Jason has prospects. He's going places. Jason inherited his job from his father and hasn't worked an honest day in his life. At least he doesn't come home covered in grease every night." I looked down at my hands, scarred, calloused, permanently stained despite scrubbing. These hands had rebuilt Elena's car, fixed her laptop, assembled every piece of furniture in our shared condo. They'd held her when she cried about work stress and family drama and the thousand small crises that had seemed so important at the time. "You're right," I said finally. "You do deserve better. You deserve someone who won't work late to afford your engagement ring. Someone who won't sacrifice his weekends to restore your car. Someone who won't spend his savings on a wedding you were never planning to show up for." "That's not— Get out!" Elena blinked. "What?" "Get out of my garage. Go back to your upgrade, and don't come back." "Tommy, wait. The engagement's off. I'll handle canceling the vendors. You can explain to your family why their flights were wasted." She stood there for another moment, mouth opening and closing, searching for words that might undo the last hour. But some things, once broken, can't be fixed with pretty words and social media apologies. Finally, she turned and walked back to her car. Jason rolled down his window as she approached, probably asking if everything was okay, if the damage was contained, if they could go back to pretending this was all some misunderstanding. I watched them drive away, then pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat. "Wedding's off," I typed. "Elena's upgraded to Jason. Vendors will be canceled by tomorrow. Sorry for the mess." Then I turned off my phone, grabbed another beer, and got back to work on the Camaro. At least engines were honest about when they were broken. The next morning brought 23 missed calls, 47 text messages, and a hangover that felt like someone had used my skull for batting practice. I'd stayed in the garage until nearly 3 a.m., alternating between drinking beer and taking apart an engine that didn't need fixing. Now, sitting in my apartment, the one I'd kept just in case despite Elena's constant pressure to give it up, I felt like I was surveying the wreckage of a life I barely recognized. My phone buzzed again. "Mom," for the 4th time in an hour. "Tommy, honey, please call me back. Your father and I are worried sick." I scrolled through the messages. My brother Mike had sent a string of increasingly concerned texts. Elena's mother had called 6 times. Even my high school buddy Dave, who I hadn't talked to in months, had reached out after seeing the drama unfold on social media. But it was the message from Elena's sister Mia that caught my attention. "Can we talk? There's stuff you need to know." I was still staring at her text when someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw my parents standing in the hallway, my mother clutching her purse like a shield, and my father looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "We brought coffee," Mom said when I opened the door, "and donuts." They settled onto my couch, the same couch Elena had called bachelor pad tragic, and lobbied to replace with something more sophisticated. Now it felt like the most comfortable piece of furniture in the world. "So," Dad said, accepting a cup of coffee, "want to tell us what really happened?" I showed them the screenshot. Mom's face went through several expressions: confusion, hurt, anger, and finally a kind of grim understanding that only comes from 35 years of marriage. "That little—" she started, then caught herself. "I never liked her. Mom, I didn't. She was always too good for everything. Our house, our car, your job. I kept waiting for her to grow out of it, but some people never do." Dad was studying the photo with the methodical attention he brought to everything. "How long do you think this was going on?" "Months, probably. Maybe longer." I told them about the late nights, the secretive phone calls, the way Elena had started criticizing everything about our life together. "I should have seen it coming." "No," Mom said firmly. "You shouldn't have had to. When you love someone, you trust them. That's how it's supposed to work." "Your mother's right." Dad set down his coffee cup. "This isn't on you, son. This is on her, and that Chen boy." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 3 years of wedding planning and shared dreams settling around us like dust. "What about the money?" Mom asked quietly. That was the question I'd been avoiding. The wedding had cost nearly $30,000, money my parents had saved for years, money Elena's family had contributed, money I'd earned working double shifts and weekend jobs. Most of it was non-refundable. "I'll figure it out," I said. "We all will," Dad corrected. "Family sticks together." After they left, I finally returned Mia's call. Elena's younger sister had always been the reasonable one in the family, quieter than Elena, more thoughtful, less concerned with appearances and social media drama. "Thank God," she said when she heard my voice. "I've been trying to reach you all morning. If you're calling to defend your sister, I'm not. Elena's an idiot, and she's about to get exactly what she deserves." That got my attention. "What do you mean? Can we meet somewhere? This isn't a phone conversation." An hour later, we were sitting in a diner across town, far from anywhere Elena or Jason might show up. Mia looked like she hadn't slept, her usual composed demeanor replaced by nervous energy. "Elena doesn't know I'm here," she said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "And she can't know we talked." "Okay." "That post yesterday? That wasn't spontaneous. She planned it." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What do you mean, planned?" "She's been talking about breaking up with you for months, but she was scared. Scared of disappointing everyone, scared of being alone, scared of admitting she made a mistake." Mia leaned forward. "Jason convinced her that the best way to end things was to make you break up with her. So she wouldn't be the bad guy." "Exactly. She gets her freedom, gets to play the victim, and gets to keep Jason without looking like the cheater she is." The diner suddenly felt too small, too warm. "How long have you known?" "About Jason? Since Christmas. I walked in on them at Mom and Dad's house during the holiday party. They made me promise not to tell anyone." "And you agreed?" Mia's face flushed. "Elena's my sister. I hoped she'd come to her senses. I kept telling her she was making a mistake, that you were a good guy, that she was throwing away something real for something that wouldn't last. But she didn't listen. She got worse, started talking about how she was wasting her life, how she deserved better, how you were holding her back from her potential." Mia shook her head. "It was like watching someone convince themselves that black was white." I thought about all the small cruelties of the past few months, the comments about my job, my clothes, my friends, the way Elena had started treating our relationship like a burden instead of a choice. "There's more," Mia said quietly. "The wedding money? Elena's been moving it around. She opened a separate account last month and transferred most of her family's contribution." "For what?" "She and Jason are planning a trip to Europe. They've already booked flights for next week." The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "Next week, when we were supposed to be on our honeymoon." "Tommy, I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner, but I kept thinking, it's not your fault." I meant it. Mia had been caught between loyalty to her sister and doing the right thing. It was an impossible position. "What happens now?" "Now Elena gets to explain to Mom and Dad why half the wedding fund is missing. Now she gets to face everyone at Sunday dinner and admit what she's been doing. Now she gets to live with the consequences of her choices." We sat in silence for a moment, watching traffic flow past the diner windows. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that mine had imploded in the space of 24 hours. "What are you going to do?" Mia asked. I thought about Elena and Jason, probably planning their European adventure while I dealt with canceled vendors and disappointed relatives. I thought about the friends who would inevitably choose sides, the social circles that would close ranks, the awkward encounters that would follow me for months. "I'm going to let her have her upgrade," I said finally, "and then I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person they're dealing with." Mia studied my face. "That doesn't sound like you. Maybe the old me is gone too." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Don't let her turn you into someone you're not, Tommy. Don't let her win twice." But as I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that being the bigger person was exactly what Elena was counting on. She'd calculated this whole thing, planned it out like one of her PR campaigns. She'd get her freedom, her European vacation, and her clean conscience, while I got to play the role of the understanding ex-fiancé who wished her well. That night, I opened my laptop and started making a list. Vendors to cancel, deposits to recover, people to notify. But as I worked, another list began forming in my mind. A list of everyone who deserved to know the truth about Elena Martinez and Jason Chen. Some engines, I'd learned, needed to be completely rebuilt before they could run clean again. Maybe it was time to start from scratch. The boxing gym at 6 a.m. was my cathedral, all sweat and determination, no pretense or social media posturing. I'd been coming here since high school, back when my biggest worry was passing algebra and asking Sarah Morrison to prom. Now, 20 years later, it felt like the only place where things still made sense. "You're hitting like a man with something to prove," said Big Mike, holding the heavy bag steady as I worked through my frustration. Mike had been my trainer since I was 17, a former Golden Gloves champion who'd seen enough young men work through their problems with their fists to recognize the signs. Maybe I do. I threw a combination that would have dropped a smaller man. Maybe I'm tired of being the nice guy who gets walked on. Woman troubles? I told him about Elena, about Jason, about the Instagram post that had blown up my life. Mike listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or grunting in the way of men who'd learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is just witness someone else's pain. "So what's your plan?" he asked when I finished. "I don't have one yet." "Bullshit. You got that look in your eyes, the same one you had before you knocked out Danny Rodriguez in the Golden Gloves. You got a plan, you just don't want to say it out loud yet." He wasn't wrong. I'd spent the last 3 days thinking, planning, researching. Elena had built her life on image and reputation, her job in public relations, her carefully curated social media presence, her network of friends and professional contacts. She'd used those tools to destroy me publicly, and now I was going to return the favor, but I was going to be smart about it. My phone buzzed with a text from Dave Martinez, an old friend who worked in digital marketing. "Got those screenshots you asked for. This is some serious dirt, man. You sure you want to do this?" I was sure. Dave had helped me create fake social media accounts, untraceable, legitimate-looking profiles that could follow Elena and Jason's friends without raising suspicion. Over the past week, I'd been documenting everything. Jason's dating profiles, still active, Elena's expense reports, inflated, their social media activity, constant lies about their whereabouts. But the real gold mine had been Elena's own Instagram account. She'd been sloppy, posting photos and stories that contradicted the timeline she'd given me about when things started with Jason. A romantic dinner in February that she'd claimed was a work event. A weekend getaway in March that had supposedly been a girls' trip. Hotel photos, restaurant check-ins, couples activities stretching back 6 months. She'd documented her own affair in real time, and I had screenshots of everything. "Tommy?" I looked up to see Sarah Morrison, now Sarah Walsh, walking into the gym. She'd married a lawyer, moved to the suburbs, and had 2 kids, but she still looked like the girl who'd said yes to prom 20 years ago. "I heard about Elena. I'm so sorry." Word traveled fast in our hometown. Sarah's expression was a mix of sympathy and something else. Relief, maybe, or validation. She'd never liked Elena either, had warned me years ago that something felt off about her. "I'm fine," I lied. "No, you're not, but you will be." She glanced around the gym, then lowered her voice. "Listen, I know this might not be the right time, but there's something you should know about Jason." My hands stilled on the heavy bag. "What about him?" "My husband represents his ex-girlfriend, the one from college, Rebecca. She's been trying to get back money he owes her, plus some personal items he never returned. Apparently, this is a pattern with him." "What kind of pattern?" "He gets involved with women, borrows money or gets access to their resources, then moves on when he's gotten what he needs. Rebecca wasn't the first, and Elena won't be the last. I thought about Elena's missing wedding fund, about her family's contributions that had mysteriously been transferred to accounts I couldn't access. How much money are we talking about? With Rebecca? Almost $10,000. He convinced her to invest in some business opportunity that never materialized, then claimed the money was lost when the deal fell through. Sarah shook her head. My husband thinks he's running some kind of long-term con, targeting women with resources and good credit. And Elena has both. Elena has both, plus a family with money and a job that gives her access to corporate accounts. Sarah pulled out her phone. I probably shouldn't be showing you this, but Rebecca's been documenting everything for the lawsuit. Look familiar? The photos she showed me were like looking into a funhouse mirror. Jason with Rebecca at the same restaurants he'd taken Elena to. The same romantic gestures, the same poses, even some of the same lines in social media captions. He'd been running the same playbook for years. There's more, Sarah said. Rebecca found out he was seeing someone else while they were together, some marketing executive from his dad's company. Same pattern. Expensive dates, romantic getaways, promises about the future, then gradual financial entanglement. How many women? At least 4 that we know of, maybe more. I stared at the photos, pieces of a larger puzzle finally clicking into place. Jason hadn't fallen for Elena. He'd targeted her. Her job, her family connections, her access to wedding funds and corporate resources, the timing of their relationship, the way he'd inserted himself into our wedding planning, his insistence on handling certain financial arrangements. Bastard, I muttered. Tommy, what are you thinking? What I was thinking was that Elena might be a cheating, manipulative social climber, but she was also about to become the victim of a predator who'd done this before. What I was thinking was that Jason Chen had picked the wrong couple to destroy. What I was thinking was that it was time to stop being the nice guy. I'm thinking, I said slowly, that Elena and Jason deserve each other, and I'm thinking that everyone else deserves to know exactly who they're dealing with. Sarah looked worried. Tommy, don't do anything stupid. I'm not going to do anything stupid, I said, pulling out my phone to call Dave. I'm going to do something smart. That afternoon, I sat in my apartment with my laptop open, surrounded by printed screenshots, financial records, and a timeline that stretched back 2 years. Elena thought she'd been clever, but she'd left a digital trail that would make a forensic accountant weep with joy. The Instagram post that had started this whole mess was just the tip of the iceberg. By evening, I had everything I needed: bank records showing Elena's suspicious transfers, screenshots of Jason's dating profiles and messages to other women, photos proving their relationship had started months before Elena claimed, evidence of Jason's pattern of financial manipulation with previous girlfriends. But I wasn't going to dump it all at once like some spurned ex-boyfriend having a meltdown. I was going to be methodical, strategic, professional. I was going to treat this like the PR campaign Elena had taught me to run. The first post went live at 9 p.m. on Elena's company's Facebook page, a simple comment on their latest client success story. Interesting how XYZ PR celebrates integrity in business while employing people who steal wedding funds and cheat on their partners. Screenshots available upon request. The second post appeared on Jason's father's company page an hour later. Nepotism is one thing, but hiring someone with a documented history of financial fraud is another. Ask Rebecca Martinez about the $10,000 your son owes her. The third post was the masterpiece, a detailed timeline posted to a local community Facebook group with over 5,000 members, complete with screenshots, photos, and financial records. The headline read, "Local woman steals wedding fund for European vacation with serial scammer." Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. Some engines, I'd learned, needed a controlled explosion before they could be rebuilt. Tomorrow, Elena and Jason would wake up to discover that their carefully constructed world had blown up overnight. and I was just getting started. My phone had been buzzing nonstop for 3 days. The Facebook posts had gone viral in our small community, shared, commented on, and dissected by everyone from high school classmates to Elena's coworkers. The screenshots I'd posted were being passed around like trading cards, each one adding another layer to the story of Elena Martinez and Jason Chen's spectacular downfall. But it was the call from Elena's boss that really made my week. "Mr. Thompson, this is Margaret Stevens from XYZ Public Relations. I need to speak with you about the allegations you've made regarding our employee, Elena Martinez." I'd been expecting this call. Elena's company prided itself on reputation management. They couldn't afford to have a scandal-ridden employee representing their clients. "What would you like to know?" I asked. "Are you prepared to provide documentation supporting your claims about misappropriated funds and professional misconduct?" "I am. I can email you a complete file within the hour." There was a pause. "Mr. Thompson, I want you to understand that these are serious allegations. If they prove to be false, they're not false. Elena documented most of it herself on social media. I just compiled the evidence." The file I sent Margaret Stevens was 40 pages long. Bank records, screenshots, photos, a detailed timeline, and supporting documentation from Jason's previous victims. It was the kind of thorough, professional presentation that Elena had taught me to create during our years together. The irony wasn't lost on me. By Thursday morning, Elena was on administrative leave pending an investigation. By Thursday afternoon, Jason's father had called an emergency meeting with his company's board of directors. By Thursday evening, I was sitting in Murphy's bar, watching the whole thing unfold on social media like a real-time car crash. "You're enjoying this too much," said Dave, sliding another beer across the table. We'd been friends since high school, and he knew me well enough to recognize the satisfaction on my face. "Am I?" I took a long pull of beer and scrolled through the latest comments on the community Facebook post. Elena's sorority sisters are turning on her. Jason's college buddies are sharing their own stories about his borrowing habits. His ex-girlfriend Rebecca just posted a detailed account of how he scammed her out of 10 grand. That's not what I mean, and you know it. Dave was right, and I did know it. The old Tommy Thompson would have been horrified by what I was doing. The calculated destruction, the public humiliation, the methodical dismantling of two people's lives. But the old Tommy Thompson had been a sucker who'd worked 60-hour weeks to pay for a wedding to a woman who was planning to leave him for a con artist. "They had it coming," I said. "Maybe. But what happens when you're done? When there's nothing left to destroy?" I was about to answer when the bar door opened and 3 familiar figures walked in. Marcus, Steve, and Tony, guys I'd known since college, friends who'd been in our wedding party until 3 days ago. They spotted me immediately and headed for our table with a kind of determined walk that meant trouble. "Tommy," Marcus said, not bothering with pleasantries, "we need to talk." "So talk." "Not here." He glanced around the bar, which had gone noticeably quieter since their arrival. "Outside." Dave started to stand, but I waved him off. "It's fine. I'll be right back." The parking lot behind Murphy's was dimly lit and empty except for a few cars. Marcus, Steve, and Tony formed a semicircle in front of me, their faces serious in the yellow glow of the security lights. "What you're doing to Elena and Jason," Marcus began. "It needs to stop." "Does it?" "This isn't you, man. You're better than this revenge bullshit." Steve nodded. "Elena made a mistake, okay? But destroying her life over it? That's not right." I looked at the 3 of them, guys I'd known for 15 years, guys I'd trusted with my bachelor party, my wedding planning, my friendship. Interesting. Where was this concern for what's right when Elena was stealing wedding money? Where was this moral outrage when Jason was running his con game? "That's different," Tony said. "How?" "Elena's our friend, too. We've known her almost as long as we've known you." And? Marcus stepped closer. And we're not going to stand by and watch you destroy her because you're hurt and angry. So you're choosing sides. We're choosing to do the right thing. I laughed, and the sound echoed off the brick walls of the bar. The right thing. That's rich. You know what the right thing would have been? Telling me when you found out about the affair. The silence that followed was deafening. You knew, I said, reading their faces in the dim light. All of you knew. Steve looked uncomfortable. We suspected something was going on, but what? You thought it was none of your business? You thought I deserved to find out on Instagram like everyone else? We didn't want to get involved in your relationship drama, Tony said. My relationship drama. I shook my head. My fiancé was cheating on me with my best man, stealing money from our wedding fund and planning to leave me for a serial con artist, and you call it relationship drama. Elena's not a bad person, Marcus insisted. She just got confused, made some poor choices. Elena's a manipulative, lying thief who used me for 3 years while planning her exit strategy. Jason's a predator who's done this to at least 4 other women, and you 3 knew about it and said nothing. We were trying to protect you. By letting me plan a wedding to a woman who was already planning her European vacation with another man, by letting me spend my savings on a marriage that was never going to happen, by letting me humiliate myself in front of both our families. My voice was rising now, anger and betrayal mixing into something toxic. That's your idea of protection? Tommy, calm down, Steve said. Don't tell me to calm down. You lost that right when you decided Elena's feelings were more important than my life. That's not what happened. Then what did happen? Explain to me how watching your friend get played for a fool was the right thing to do. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. Look, we talked about it, okay? We talked about whether we should say something, but Elena begged us not to. She said she was going to end things with Jason, that she was going to come clean with you, that she just needed time to figure things out. And you believed her. We wanted to believe her. Because it was easier than doing the right thing. Tony stepped forward, his jaw set. You know what? Maybe we should have told you. Maybe we screwed up. But that doesn't give you the right to destroy people's lives over the internet like some kind of psycho. Psycho? Yeah, psycho. This whole social media campaign, the posts on their employers' pages, the community Facebook thing, it's obsessive, Tommy. It's scary. I stared at him for a long moment. You want to know what's scary? Scary is finding out that the people you trusted most in the world have been lying to your face for months. Scary is realizing that your fiancé was so eager to get rid of you that she documented her own affair on Instagram. Scary is discovering that your best man was running a con game and you were too stupid to see it. So you're going to ruin them? I'm going to make sure everyone knows who they really are. Elena built her career on reputation management. Let's see how she manages this one. Jason's been scamming women for years. Let's see how he does when everyone knows his game. And then what? Marcus asked. When you're done destroying them, when you've humiliated them and cost them their jobs and ruined their reputations, then what? You think you're going to feel better? I think I'm going to feel like justice was served. This isn't justice, Tommy. This is revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing. Steve shook his head. This isn't you talking. This is the hurt and anger talking. The real Tommy Thompson wouldn't do this. Maybe the real Tommy Thompson was an idiot who let people walk all over him. Maybe the real Tommy Thompson needed to die so someone smarter could take his place. The 3 of them exchanged glances, some silent communication passing between them. We can't be part of this, Marcus said finally. We can't watch you turn into someone we don't recognize. Then don't watch. Tommy, get out of my way. They hesitated for a moment, then stepped aside. I walked past them toward the bar entrance, then stopped and turned back. Just so we're clear, I said, when this is all over, when Elena and Jason are living with the consequences of their choices, don't come crawling back claiming you were just trying to protect everyone. You made your choice. You chose them over me. Live with it. I left them standing in the parking lot, and went back inside to finish my beer. Dave took one look at my face and ordered another round. That bad? They knew. All of them knew about Elena and Jason, and they said nothing. Shit. They're worried about Elena's reputation, about Jason's feelings, about doing the right thing. I drained half my beer in one gulp. But they weren't worried about me. So what happens now? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the latest comments on my Facebook posts. Elena's employer had issued a statement about their investigation. Jason's father's company had announced a restructuring of personnel. Rebecca Martinez had started a support group for Jason's other victims. Now I finish what they started, I said. Elena and Jason wanted an upgrade. Let's see how they like the premium package. Dave looked worried. Tommy, maybe you should... Should what? Forgive and forget? Turn the other cheek? Let them get away with it because it's the nice thing to do? I'm just saying, maybe there's a point where enough is enough. I thought about Elena's Instagram post, about the months of lies and manipulation, about the friends who'd chosen to protect her instead of me. I thought about the wedding that would never happen, the money that was gone, the life I'd been planning that had turned out to be an illusion. We're not there yet, I said. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. But sometimes, that's exactly what they deserve. The hotel ballroom looked exactly like it had in Elena's Pinterest boards. White roses, gold accents, fairy lights strung across the ceiling like captured stars. For a moment, standing in the doorway, I could almost see the wedding that should have been happening here tonight. Elena in her dress, me in my rented tux, our families and friends celebrating what everyone thought was a love story. Instead, it was just me, the hotel manager, and 2 security guards. Mr. Thompson, the manager said, consulting his tablet. I have to say, this is highly unusual. You've paid for the venue, but given the circumstances being that my fiancée ran off with my best man using stolen wedding funds? Well, yes. And you're worried about what, exactly? That I'm going to trash the place? The thought had crossed my mind. I couldn't blame him. The past 2 weeks had been a masterclass in controlled destruction. Elena was facing termination from her job and possible criminal charges for misappropriating client funds. Jason had been fired from his father's company and was dealing with lawsuits from 3 ex-girlfriends. Their European vacation had been canceled when Jason's credit cards were frozen as part of the fraud investigation. But I wasn't done yet. I'm not here to cause trouble, I told the manager. I'm here to host a party. A party? A celebration, actually. Everyone who was supposed to be at the wedding is still coming. We're just celebrating something different now. The guests started arriving at 7 p.m. My family, Elena's family, friends from both sides who'd been caught in the crossfire of our very public breakup. The atmosphere was tense, confused, like a funeral where no one was sure who had died. Elena's parents looked mortified. My parents looked worried. The handful of friends who'd remained neutral looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. Tommy, Elena's father, approached me at the bar. What is this? What are you doing? I'm hosting a party, Mr. Martinez. You paid for half of it. Seemed like a shame to let it go to waste. This is cruel. Is it? Elena wanted everyone to know she'd upgraded. I thought we should celebrate her success. He looked around the ballroom, taking in the decorations, the open bar, the confused guests. Where is she? Good question. Last I heard, she and Jason were holed up in his apartment, trying to figure out which lawyer could best handle their various legal problems. You did this. You destroyed her life. No, Mr. Martinez. Elena destroyed her own life. I just made sure everyone got to see it happen. The evening progressed like a fever dream. I gave a toast, a long, detailed recounting of Elena and Jason's affair, complete with screenshots displayed on the venue's projection screen. I shared the timeline of their deception, the evidence of financial fraud, the testimonials from Jason's previous victims. Some guests left, others stayed, morbid curiosity overriding their discomfort. A few actually seemed to enjoy the show. Elena had made enemies over the years, people who'd been waiting for her carefully constructed image to crack. But it was Elena's sister Mia who provided the evening's biggest surprise. "Tommy," she said, approaching me during a lull in the festivities, "we need to talk. Privately." We stepped out onto the hotel's balcony, the city lights twinkling below us like earthbound stars. "I have something to tell you," Mia said. "Something I should have told you weeks ago. About Elena and Jason. About me." I studied her face in the dim light. "What about you?" "I'm the one who made sure you found out about the affair." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "The Instagram post, the timing, the way it was tagged. I helped Elena set it up, but not for the reasons she thought." My mind raced, trying to process what she was telling me. "You wanted me to find out." "I wanted everyone to find out. Elena has been horrible to me my entire life. Perfect grades, perfect boyfriend, perfect job, perfect life, and she never let me forget that I was the screw-up sister who couldn't get anything right. So you sabotaged her relationship." "I sabotaged her exit strategy. She was planning to break up with you quietly, paint herself as the victim, and ride off into the sunset with Jason while everyone felt sorry for her. I made sure that couldn't happen." I stared at her, this woman I'd thought was my ally, realizing she'd been playing a game I didn't even know existed. "You used me. We used each other. You wanted revenge on Elena and Jason. I wanted Elena to face consequences for once in her life. We both got what we wanted." "Did we?" Mia gestured toward the ballroom, where my twisted celebration was still in progress. "Look around, Tommy. Elena's career is over. Jason's facing multiple lawsuits. Their relationship is toxic. They're blaming each other for everything that's gone wrong. You've destroyed them both, and you did it so thoroughly that they'll never recover." She was right. In the space of 3 weeks, I'd systematically dismantled two people's lives with the precision of a surgeon and the ruthlessness of a predator. Elena would never work in PR again. Jason would spend years in court fighting fraud charges. Their names were permanently linked to scandal in our community. "How does it feel?" Mia asked. I thought about the question seriously. How did it feel to have complete victory, total revenge, absolute justice? How did it feel to watch your enemies destroy themselves with the very weapons they'd used against you? It felt empty. "Tommy?" Mia was watching my face carefully. "Are you okay?" "I need to go." I left her on the balcony and walked back through the ballroom, past the confused guests and the damning slideshow and the wreckage of what should have been the happiest night of my life. I didn't stop to say goodbye, didn't offer explanations or apologies. I just walked out of the hotel and into the cool night air. My phone buzzed with a text message. "Elena, I know you're behind everything that's happened. I know you destroyed my life on purpose. I just want you to know that I loved you once, and I'm sorry it ended this way." I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, "You didn't love me. You loved the idea of me, the security I provided, the life I could give you, but you never loved me." Her response came quickly. "Maybe you're right, but at least I never turned into a monster." I deleted the conversation without replying. 3 months later, I was back at the boxing gym, working the heavy bag with the methodical precision I'd learned to apply to everything in my life. Elena had moved back in with her parents, unemployed and unemployable in her chosen field. Jason was working at a car dealership, his trust fund frozen and his reputation in ruins. They'd broken up 6 weeks after their European vacation was canceled, each blaming the other for their downfall. "You did it," Big Mike said, holding the bag steady. "You got your revenge. How's it feel?" I threw a combination that would have knocked out a heavyweight. Like I won a game I never wanted to play. "That's the thing about revenge," Mike said. You always get exactly what you ask for. The question is whether you really wanted it in the first place. I thought about Elena's text message, about Mia's confession, about the friends I'd lost and the bridges I'd burned. I thought about the man I'd been 3 months ago, naive, trusting, willing to work 60-hour weeks for a woman who saw him as a stepping stone. That man was gone, replaced by someone harder, smarter, more ruthless, someone who understood that love was a luxury and trust was a weakness. Someone who knew that in the end, everyone was looking out for themselves. The old Tommy Thompson would have forgiven her, I told Mike. Probably. Would have taken her back, tried to work things out, given her another chance. Maybe. Would have been the bigger person. Might have been. I stopped hitting the bag and looked at my reflection in the gym's mirrors, scarred knuckles, harder eyes, a face that had learned not to trust easily. Good thing he's dead, I said. Mike studied me for a moment. You sure about that? But I was already walking away, my phone buzzing with notifications from the dating app I'd downloaded the week before. 3 women had messaged me, drawn by the profile I'd created. Successful businessman, recently single, looking for someone who appreciated the finer things in life. I'd learned from the best, after all. Elena had taught me that love was just another transaction, that relationships were about leverage and advantage, that everyone was ultimately replaceable. Jason had shown me that loyalty was a weakness, and friendship was just another word for opportunity. My former friends had demonstrated that trust was naive, and standing by your principles was for suckers. They'd all upgraded me, whether they'd meant to or not. As I drove home through the city streets, past the hotel where my wedding should have been, and the apartment where Elena and I had planned our future, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Satisfaction. Not the hollow victory of revenge, but the deeper contentment of becoming exactly who the world had taught me to be. Elena had wanted an upgrade. She'd gotten one. She'd upgraded me from a trusting fool into someone who understood how the game was really played. And I was going to be very good at this new game.